Poder means power.
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 So my path to research is inspired by my personal experience. Coming from my community, I didn't even have a chemistry teacher in high school or a biology teacher. So when I was in 9th grade in high school, my biology teacher was a substitute teacher. We actually had substitute teachers coming in and out every week. It'd be a new one. And at one point, one of the substitutes became our teacher. So she would literally have a piece of paper and just put whatever was on that paper on the board. And that was bio class. And actually the same thing happened with my chemistry course the following year as a sophomore. We didn't have a chemistry teacher. And again, it's just a room full of Black and brown people. And, we didn't learn any chemistry or biology. And so then it's kind of ironic now that next year I will be graduating with a degree in biochemistry. Once I got into the build program, I quit my job at Jimmy John's delivering sandwiches. And I started getting paid to do research at PCC, even though I did go to East Los Angeles. It's just undescribable how many ways it helped me academically. It gave me direction. Actually, the most important thing is that it gave me direction because as a community college student, I wasn't really exposed to what research was. I didn't really know about higher education past a bachelor's degree. So I didn't know about the master's program. I didn't know about PhD programs. And I mean, as of right now, I'm applying to PhD well, in the fall, I will be applying to PhD programs in chemistry. So without Build, none of this would have been possible. If I were to tell myself 3 years ago, 4 years ago about where I would be right now, then I actually wouldn't believe that individual. I wouldn't believe myself.
Growing up, I was definitely more of the artistic type. I wanted to be an artist. I loved painting. So thinking of being a scientist was not really in my scope of what I intended for my later life. So it's crazy to think how much has changed. And it's not that I'm not as creative as I once was, but I'm able to use whatever curiosity and questioning that I had as a child now in my line of work. And I think that's so important nowadays because we provide fresh new ideas each day to whatever field we're getting into. And I think that's the beauty of Build. You empower students who have ideas and who have dreams and didn't think that we would end up in the position that we are today when we were 5 years old and so. And I think that's what's going to be the game changer for the next generations to come. I'm looking forward to starting at Northwestern this summer, actually as soon as I graduate, basically. Just get right into it, right? And I'll be pursuing my doctorate of physical therapy degree as well as my master's in public health. And that's basically going to be my plan for the next 3 to 5 years. I'll be moving to Chicago, so it's a completely different change of scenery. But I think there's going to be a lot of growth from it. And I'm really excited about that.
When I was growing up, I did not see science as an option. I grew up in a very low-income community where science wasn't really thought of, or it wasn't really projected onto students. It was more of hey, here's school, try your best at it. It wasn't expected to go to college after. My identity with the sciences was very rough towards the beginning of my academic career. Poder has dramatically changed my academic outlook throughout this transitional period from high school to college, and we had that financial aspect where I didn't have to focus on working at a job. Research was my job, so I had time to focus on school and just be a part of academia.
I was born in Argentina, And when I was 4 years old, my family immigrated to the United States. Being of an immigrant family, there was a lot of struggles. My dad was working in construction, and then when the 2008 financial crisis hit, we kind of got hit really, really hard. And a lot of the time was spent struggling. But I mean, we always stayed resilient. We always like had the motivation to keep going forward. And I've always been a curious kid. I've always been the kid who loves to know things or loves science and loves the idea of knowing more and more things. So I always wanted to go to school, but at the same time, coming from a family that did all of their schooling in a different country that's completely different than how they do it here, I had a lot of things that I had to find out for myself. When I started going to college, actually, I didn't realize that when you get accepted to a school, you actually don't automatically get accepted into the dorms. I thought, like, from college movies, that when you get into a school, you immediately go into the dorms. I picked a school that was 50 to 70 miles away from home, thinking, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to be able to get away from home. And then I realized that that's not the way that it works. And now I'm stuck commuting back and forth, and I had a car that barely worked, and all of these kinds of things. And it was just a struggle, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I didn't really know what the college process was like. I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. I just knew that I loved to know things. So in the end, I discovered research, and I discovered science and all these different things, and PODER really helped me to focus in on what I really wanted to do. So I had all this curiosity as a kid, but I wasn't really set up in a place where I had the capacity, or not the capacity, but I didn't have the resources to really hone in and focus on what I wanted to do. So for me, PODER filled that role, filled that spot of, okay, well, I really want to do these things. I just don't know how, or I don't have the social capital to be able to do it. So now with Build, they allow me that ability.
After these 3 years, I feel like I am a scientist, and I could confidently say that I am. In the beginning, when I first started, I was a little nervous because I didn't know how to be a scientist, but I had the training from Dr. April Taylor and Dr. David Wakefield, and I was able to go to a variety of conferences to make me feel and more confident in myself. Build funded me to go to Texas for the summer. I went to Michigan. I met a variety of professors who I was able to connect with and get more involved, and feel over the years more confident in not just the research I do in my lab at CSUN, but also have a variety of experience to where I am confident to study children who have autism, and adults who have autism spectrum disorder, and then Michigan, where I focus on people who stutter. And I was able to get this variety of experience to where now, after I applied to grad school, they're emailing me saying where I'm going. Build has given me that gift to interact with others.
Before college and while growing up, I definitely did not see science as an option. I kind of like playfully looked up what experimental psychology meant one day, and I thought that was super cool. But it just seemed so far-fetched to me. So I didn't even try for that. I went straight to work and hated it, breathing in a ton of fumes I shouldn't be breathing, having people yell at me, it sucked. And then after that, I thought, well, how about I become a welder? So I actually have a whole other degree in welding that I was going to pursue. And so this whole research route was just not what I was going to take. But, fortunately, I was able to kind of find out about PODER. And so I pursued it, and here I am. It's kind of really changed my trajectory, a whole 180. I think the moment where I really felt like a scientist is when it all just kind of came together, when I got my UCR acceptance, I would say when I'm like, wow, this is really happening. I'm really doing this. I'm really going to dedicate my life to being part of this program. And then afterwards, and the career goals I have with that, I would say, yeah, when I got that letter, I was like, okay, this is for real. I'm a scientist.
So my research is inspired from personal experience, absolutely. It started when I was freshman year here at CSUN. And one day I went to sleep around 8 o'clock and I didn't wake up till 4 the next day. I missed a final and everything. And I went to the doctor, and it turns out that I have something called Hashimoto syndrome, which is an autoimmune disorder where your body thinks that your thyroid is a virus and it tries to kill it. So your thyroid is what's responsible for metabolism, for energy, for glucose metabolism, for all of that. And finding that out, I also found out that I was diabetic insulin resistant. So when I went to the doctor, they basically told me, here's a bunch of pills, there's nothing you can do, have a good time. And I always knew that something was wrong there. I knew that just listening to that, it didn't feel right in my gut. And this was still when I was a psychology major. So at the time, I guess this was my first research experience because I went home, I did my own research, and I looked into, okay, how can the goal at first was just to stop taking medication. And once I saw what the diseases were about, I saw that your nutrition actually plays a really huge role into your metabolism, how you eat, all those things. And so I made the decision at that point where either I could stick to psychology and do something that, I'm familiar with, or I can do something that not only am I interested in, but now I have a personal experience with it. So a month later, after I found that out, I changed my major to food science and nutrition. And then I was in a nutrition class, and one of the professors had told me that you can go two ways. With nutrition, you tell people what to eat, how to treat their body. With food science, you make the products for them to consume. And that just made so much more sense to me because I guess at that point, again, is where my research got sparked, because what if there's something out there that I don't know it exists? I can't give it to you unless I find it first, unless I create it. Because I got into build, I was able to do a summer research at USC. And I got to work in a diabetes lab, and I got to also shadow different surgeons and physicians. And that introduced me to MD, PhD, where you can do research and work in the medical field. And that's something I didn't even know what was possible. And because of that, that's the route I want to go to. I want to do research, but I want to take that research into medicine, something that not a lot of people do. So that's why I feel like it's important that more of us do that. And that opportunity, being at USC, getting a new mentor, that gave me the opportunity this summer to I actually got a summer internship at Harvard, and I get to continue that. I get to continue research, nutrition research, but I still get to do more opportunities within the medical field as well.
I do believe Build PODER has helped empower me as a scientist. And this is simply because, how should I say this? Yeah, there's not a lot of people that look like me, and I feel like me becoming a scientist, going into higher education after my time here at CSUN, I think I will become a role model to the community. I'm definitely going to go back to my community, and I'm going to show them, what chemistry is about, what it is. And I think as a person of color, we have that moral obligation to go back to our communities and show students and children that look like me how it can be done and should be done.
Build PODER really empowered me to know that I have the ability to be where I want to be. Now here's the tools that will just basically propel you to get to your point B.
Build has empowered me, one of which is the fact that they support you on doing these academic research opportunities across the country. And I was fortunate enough to participate in a research opportunity in New York. So I definitely chose to go as far away as possible because that was the first time I ever had the opportunity to go away from home. And I learned a lot about myself and about others as well. I'm very grateful for that.
PODER to me signifies the power of knowledge. So now I actually know what I can do. I know what the options are. I know that there's a way to get there. And while I've had to overcome some things that people haven't been able to overcome, I also think that now through Build PODER, I have the power to actually go and overcome those obstacles and hopefully set a path for the people behind me, so that in my family there can be someone who says, oh, well, I wanted to go into science, but then Federico, he went into science, so that might be giving them an opportunity to actually go and do something that they might have not thought that they could have done as well.
With Build, I was able to find friends who understand what I'm going through, even though they're different majors. They're like, well, we're getting through this grad application together. And prior to that, the past 2 years before I applied to graduate school, I had friends who were continuously worried, and we help each other out, and we go through these meetings and builds, and we hear Dr. Chavetta talk about imposter syndrome, which I know that I get a lot, and my colleagues and my friends do as well. So I feel like with builds, it has helped me, coach me to prepare myself and to actually have confidence that I could get through school academics, but also the real world field.
I think Build PODER has empowered me to really just be confident, with my abilities, like to let me know that I am competent. Like I never wanted to be the person raising my hand or giving a speech or anything like that, because I never felt like my work was good enough or that I had anything worthwhile to present. And I think now with Build, like now I get a joy of being able to go to these conferences and show them my work.
Build PODER has empowered me in a way where I feel like I can go into any field, and regardless if I know a lot of information in it, I can still learn. To me, PODER means having the self-efficacy to know that you can do anything that you want to do, regardless of what your environment has ever been or what anyone else has ever told you.